You want to fix your life in 30 days? Good. But simply saying, "I will work hard," is not a plan. That is a wish. To succeed in monk mode, you need a timeline. You need to know exactly what will happen to your brain in week 1, the withdrawal, week 2, the flatline, and week 4, the clarity. Today, I am giving you the strategic roadmap for the next 30 days to rebuild your habits and reclaim your ambition. No guessing. Just the protocol. Phase 1, the daily code. The 3 rules you follow every single day: meditation, exercise, 0 alcohol. No exceptions. The daily code rests on 3 non-negotiables you repeat every day: meditation, exercise, 0 alcohol. This trio anchors your psychology, your energy, and your discipline, turning vague intentions into concrete action you can rely on. It isn't about perfection, it's about consistency, even when motivation is thin and the day is long. You start by defining a simple, doable cadence you can repeat tomorrow and the next day, again and again, until it becomes automatic. Meditation is the first pillar. Begin with a focused, distraction-free window of 10 to 15 minutes. Sit upright, let thoughts come and go, and bring attention to the breath or a steady counting rhythm. If the mind wanders, guide it back with a gentle note to return to the breath. This is not a test of willpower but a rehearsal for focus under pressure. On days when energy is low, extend the duration only slightly or shorten to 5 minutes and simply show up. The point is to maintain the habit, not to chase a breakthrough every time. You can alternate between breath awareness, a body scan, or a brief guided session, but the thread remains: a daily, uninterrupted moment of stillness. Exercise follows, and it should feel like non-negotiable maintenance rather than a choice. Schedule 20 to 45 minutes of movement most days, mixing cardiovascular work with strength training and mobility. Start with something sustainable: a brisk 20-minute walk, a circuit of bodyweight moves, or a light jog. 2 or 3 days a week. Push a bit harder with intervals or a moderate resistance workout. The aim is steady momentum, not an all-out sprint. Track your effort loosely: pace, representatives, or distance, and push to improve just enough to feel progress. Consistency builds resilience, and resilience compounds into real capability over weeks. 0 alcohol closes the triad. This rule means no alcoholic drinks on any day, regardless of social pressure or fatigue. Plan ahead to blunt triggers. Have water, sparkling water with citrus, or non-alcoholic alternatives ready in social settings. When a social moment arises, a simple, direct script helps: "I'm keeping my plan intact today." You don't need to defend the choice. You simply state it and move on. Sanity around cravings comes from structure, not excuses. If alcohol is a habitual go-to, you'll want to map out the exact situations that trigger it and swap in the same social settings with different beverages or a brief activity away from the bar area. The aim is to preserve your intention without making the moment into a moral debate. The daily rules are your baseline. Stay with them, log them, and let the small wins accumulate. The plan you follow every day is not a lecture. It's a practical system you can repeat with minimal friction. Now, the weekly timeline shifts from ritual to rhythm, from routine to trajectory. Week 1 is about anchoring the routine and reducing friction. You add little friction to your mornings by tying the 3 rules to a fixed sequence that starts immediately after waking. Meditation first, a quick breath-led session to set tone. Then exercise, which can be light at first, just enough to confirm you did it, followed by a glass-free commitment to the day. Sleep quality tends to improve as mornings become clearer and more intentional. You'll notice small gains in attention, steadier energy, and fewer afternoon crashes. The goal is to embed the pattern so it becomes the default response to waking up, not a separate task you dread. Week 2 introduces a sharper test, often described by practitioners as the Day 15 flatline. Energy may dip, motivation can feel thinner, and the brain may resist the old momentum you're trying to re-establish. This isn't a failure, it's a signal that the system is recalibrating. You stay the course. If the mind wanders, return to the exact actions you know work: a brief meditation, a moderate workout, and a deliberate avoidance of alcohol. Small adjustments help. Shave a few minutes off a session when you're fatigued, or lower the intensity but keep the habit intact. Strengthen your logs, note the sensations, and plan for a minimal daily block you can complete even on the toughest days. You'll learn to ride the dip rather than resist it, and you'll see that progress doesn't vanish. It's simply more incremental during this phase. Concrete examples help translate intent into behavior. A practical day might begin with 12 minutes of mindfulness, followed by a 25-minute brisk walk or bodyweight circuit, and a no-alcohol pledge that holds through dinner and social hours. If you're traveling, keep the structure intact by selecting a hotel room corner for a 10-minute meditation, a hotel gym or a bodyweight routine for 20 minutes, and a clear no-alcohol commitment for the evening. In every case, your aim is to complete all 3 rules with no caveats. The changes won't be flashy, but they compound powerfully when repeated. Stay disciplined, stay pragmatic, and remember that the psychological battle is real but navigable. The Daily Code gives you a framework that makes discipline repeatable rather than heroic. The weekly timeline outlines what to expect, week by week, so you're not blindsided by dips or fatigue. The Day 15 Flatline exists in this process as a predictable hurdle, a sign, not a verdict. If you approach it with small, precise actions, you'll emerge with a stronger sense of control and ready to push into the next phase with more resilience and clarity. Phase 2, the Daily Framework. Not a strict schedule, but a structure, morning focus blocks and evening shutdown ritual. The daily rules lay out a mental map rather than a rigid timetable. The framework rests on 2 pillars, morning focus blocks and an evening shutdown ritual. Morning focus blocks are undistracted periods set aside for one high-value task, with a clear goal stated at the start and a plan to minimize interruptions. Prepare your environment, close irrelevant tabs, mute non-essential notifications, and keep a single target in view. If your life allows, you might outline 2 blocks in a day for different tasks, but keep the rule simple, 1 main objective per block. Evening shutdown ritual completes the day. It is not a late-night routine. It is a deliberate wind-down that tells your brain the work is done for now. Capture 3 quick things, a win from the day, a friction you encountered, and a concrete plan for the next day. Then, perform a simple transition. Note the next morning's anchor task, tidy the workspace, and step away from screens for a short, fixed window. The ritual helps consolidate learning and reduces decision fatigue for the morning. The Day 15 Flatline concept is part of the journey. In mid-course, a dip in energy, motivation, and perceived willpower often appears. This is not a failure, it's a signal to adapt. If you notice it, tighten the environment to reduce friction, minimize choices, and lean on pre-commitments. Use micro-wins to rebuild momentum. A 20-minute block rather than nothing, a quick win on a daunting task, a tiny reward after completion. When energy drops, switch to a lighter or differently textured task rather than forcing the same pace. Reframe the day as steady progression, not heroic effort. Weekly timeline begins with week 1 as the foundation. The priority is establishing the rhythm, testing 2 morning focus blocks, and refining what works without overhauling your life. Expect a gentle yet persistent learning curve as you learn what you can protect from interruptions and what tasks actually deserve the focus blocks. In week 2, the framework is scaled. Add a 3rd block or extend the focus window for the core task, and sharpen the evening shutdown with an additional reflective step. You should schedule a midweek check-in to adjust priorities and reallocate energy where needed. Day the 15th of May Shadow Week 2, so prepare a flexible plan that substitutes tasks when motivation wavers. The aim is to feel prepared for the psychological battle by knowing exactly how to protect focus, reset comprehensively, and carry momentum through the midpoints of the journey. Phase 3, Week 1, the shock. Expect withdrawal symptoms. Your brain will scream for dopamine. During Phase 3, Week 1, the brain's dopamine system recalibrates after repeated engagement with high-reward activities. You will notice withdrawal-like symptoms, irritability, restlessness, mild mood swings, fatigue. Cravings spike. Cravings may surge when you encounter familiar cues, notifications, a favorite snack, the hallway you used to linger in while scrolling, or the endorphin rush from a game or video. The first weekend is typically the sharpest shock, with a loud misfire in motivation and a tug toward old habits. Prepare for the challenge. Physical signs can include headaches, stomach discomfort, or a general sense of fog, while mental signs include racing thoughts and a quick loss of focus. You can expect moments of impatience and a sense that nothing is worth doing, followed by stubborn persistence when you choose your new routine. The daily rules form a fixed structure you can rely on. Wake at the same time each day and expose yourself to daylight within the first hour. Build 2 to 3 non-negotiable blocks for productive work or meaningful activity, each followed by a short reset. Remove high dopamine triggers from your environment whenever possible, and replace them with low-friction alternatives that mimic the rhythm without the spike. A simple, repeatable wind down helps your nervous system settle, such as a 5-minute stretch, a 2-minute breathing cycle, and a brief journaling prompt about what you felt and what you did right. Hydration and protein with steady meals keep energy from crashing. Avoid long caffeine runs late in the day. Practice urge surfing. Notice the craving as a wave, ride it for 5 to 10 minutes, and then decide before acting. End-of-day reflection tracks wins and slips, so you learn without guilt. If a craving becomes overwhelming, lean on a support buddy or a quick text chain for accountability. In week 1, you endure the initial shock and set up the daily rituals that will keep you steady. Week 2 introduces a small but meaningful lift as the brain's immediate tug-of-war eases, though pressure remains. Expect dry nights and early awakenings to settle gradually as sleep pressure normalizes. The first weekend you survive with your plan intact becomes a proof point. You notice the difference between resistance and surrender. Day 15 is a known lull that can show up as a flatline, a stage where motivation and enthusiasm dip even if you are sticking to routines. The plan anticipates that, so you have already built preemptive actions, shorter tasks, quick wins, and a reminder that consistency beats intensity. You build momentum by completing a handful of small, unambiguous tasks each day, and you keep a log to notice patterns rather than chase perfect days. During week 2, cravings lessen in frequency, but not in intensity. You still want the dopamine fix at awkward moments, after a rough meeting, after a long drive, after finishing a task that felt easy. You leverage the daily rules to push through: a 2-minute walk to reset mood, a glass of water, a brisk stretch, and a call to your accountability partner. If you slip, you log it, analyze the cue, adjust your plan, and keep moving. Example: you used to check social feeds at noon. You replace that hour with a quick workout or a creative task that earns a tiny finish line. By the end of week 2, the early cognitive fog tends to lift, and you can sustain attention longer on the non-dopamine challenges you have chosen. You can start noticing the energy and clarity returning, even if the feeling is uneven from day to day. Phase 4, week 2, the flatline, days 8 to 14. The novelty wears off. You feel bored and depressed. This is where 99% of people quit. In week 2, days 8 through 14, the newness of your routine wears thin and the brain pulls back. The novelty that fueled early momentum dissolves into a steady, flat cadence. Mood can tilt downward, energy may feel flat, and tasks that seemed exciting a week ago now resemble chores. This is not a sign that you've failed. It's a realignment moment the brain often chooses to make. The day 15 flatline concept sits at the edge of this week as a signal that the next phase requires a stricter, more deliberate approach. The work shifts from sheer novelty to sustained consistency under pressure. The daily rules are the backbone you lean on when the spark fades. Keep microhabits tiny and non-negotiable. The 2-minute rule becomes your friend because small actions compound without demanding motivation. Design your environment so the next action is the path of least resistance. For example, lay out workout clothes by the bed, reload the reading app on your phone the moment you unlock it, or place a water bottle on your desk to prompt a sip each hour. Schedule exact times for your core activities, not vague windows of opportunity. Track momentum in a simple way, a quick checkmark or a one-word mood tag at the end of each day. And enroll a partner or a small group for quick accountability. A brief text after your first bite of the day's task, a shared timer, a weekly check-in. If you miss a day, you don't retreat into self-criticism. You reset with a 2-minute version of the habit and move on. The aim is forward motion, not perfection. In week 2, the daily rules are tested by boredom, so you emphasize friction reduction for easy wins and rapid recovery after slip-ups. The weekly timeline clarifies what to expect and how to respond. Week 1 is the setup. You identify the habit, trim it to a bite-sized form, and cement the first cues. There's momentum from novelty, and the brain is willing to follow the plan with less internal debate. Week 2 delivers the flat line. The initial spark fades, the day-to-day feels repetitive, and the question becomes, will you stay the course when the mood doesn't cooperate? The answer hinges on the adjustments you've built into day 8 through day 14. You double down on microsteps that require almost no motivation, you reframe the activity as a non-negotiable part of your identity, and you introduce a tiny constraint that makes the habit easier to perform even in a lull. For example, if your aim is daily reading, you reduce it to 2 pages and pair it with a fixed cue, like after your morning coffee. If you intended to train in the afternoon but feel flat, switch to a brisk 5-minute walk, short enough to begin, long enough to rewire the pacing of your day. The day 15 flatline concept becomes the hinge. You recognize the boring, low-energy signal as the moment to adapt, not quit. If you're thinking about what keeps you going through this stretch, here are concrete moves you can apply. Create a 2-tier habit structure, a core action that must happen every day, plus a tiny optional extension you can add if energy is available. The core is non-negotiable. The extension is a lever you pull when you're feeling decent. Use ambient triggers to prompt action during the flatline window. A light in the room, a playlist, a timer set for 2 minutes. When boredom hits, lean into the simplest form of the task first. The momentum from starting often carries you to the next tiny step. If mood dips, schedule exposure to sunlight or fresh air as part of the routine, because sensory input can shift brain chemistry just enough to keep moving. Accountability still helps, but with week 2 strain, you'll want a lightweight system, a quick message to a partner that says done, or a shared checklist that both of you update. You'll find week 1 was about establishing the foothold. Week 2 is about weathering the cold wind without abandoning the climb. Day 15 marks a conscious pivot. You choose to rebuild the engine rather than pause the journey. Phase 5, the boredom hack. Why you must stare at a wall instead of picking up your phone during the week 2 dip. Boredom is a real signal, not a failure. During the week 2 dip, the brain expects novelty and your usual high stimulation cues. Your phone is a reliable, fast reward. The boredom hack uses controlled stillness to derail automatic grabbing and scrolling. Staring at a wall isn't about meditation tricks. It's about breaking the immediate pull and giving your attention a chance to reset. You train attention by choosing a low stimulation target and letting the urge pass without acting on it. The result is clearer decision-making when the next choice arrives. The daily rules create a steady framework that keeps you in motion when motivation slips. Design your environment to reduce triggers. Keep the phone out of reach, silence notifications, and place a physical reminder of your goal where you'll see it first thing. Build micro-rituals that don't rely on willpower alone. Brief, repeatable actions that signal a reset after small slips. When a craving hits, activate the wall stare. Fix your gaze on the blank surface, soften your eyes, and resist any impulse to touch the device. While you do this, name the sensation aloud or in your head. This is the craving, this is the pause, and then wait for the urge to subside before re-engaging with your plan. After the stare, jot a quick note about what you felt and what you chose, so you know the pattern isn't random luck. These rules aren't punishment, they're bandwidth protection for your attention. The weekly timeline lays out expectations for week 1 versus week 2. In week 1 you're laying the groundwork. You set boundaries, calibrate the environment, and practice the wall stare in moments you would typically reach for the phone. The habit starts to show up as a pattern you can recognize, not as a sudden victory. In week 2 you'll encounter the dip. The day 15 flatline sneaks in when novelty fades and effort feels routine. This is exactly when the wall hack becomes essential. You lean into the lower energy rather than fight with it. You extend the wall stare window slightly when the pull is strongest. You couple it with a quick breathing check, and you resume your day with a conscious decision rather than a reflex. Expect uneven progress, and treat each small alignment as progress in disguise. The day 15 flatline is not a signal to abandon the plan. It's a checkpoint that confirms the process is working, just not in obvious ways. The brain stops rewarding you with bright, sparkly cues during this phase, so you notice change only through consistency over time. An effective response is to double down on the wall stare tactic at the precise moments you know you're most vulnerable, the moments after meals, during transitional breaks, and when you feel fatigue creeping in. You don't chase excitement, you cultivate reliability. For example, if you typically reach for your phone while waiting for coffee to brew, you pause and look at a blank wall instead. You maintain a soft gaze, let thoughts drift, then name the urge and count it as a transient signal rather than a command. After the wall stare, you return to the kitchen with a clear option in mind. Open your habit journal, or take a quick stretch, or write one sentence about your goal for the day. The pattern is repeatable because the wall stare reduces immediate rewards and creates room for deliberate choice. In another scenario, during a lunch break you notice a spike in stress and a desire to scroll through feeds. You pause, perform the wall stare, and then choose a different micro-action. Pour water, step outside for a breath, or note 3 things you're grateful for. Small, repeatable actions compound. The practical takeaway is simple. Treat week 2 as the test of your discipline, not as a signal to quit. The wall stare hack is your anchor when the mind wants novelty and comfort. Pair it with honest reflection, environmental control, and consistent logging of outcomes. You'll find that the edge you chase isn't about dramatic wins, but about choosing the option that serves your longer-term pattern visibility. Stay steady, measure what changes, and trust that these deliberate pauses are the real engine of habit rebuilding. Phase 6, weeks 3 and 4, the momentum. The brain fog lifts. Work becomes easy. You enter the flow state. By weeks 3 and 4, momentum becomes tangible. The brain fog lifts and work starts to feel natural rather than forced. Habits no longer demand a debate in your mind. They run in the background, guiding your actions as you move from one task to the next. Your environment acts like a loyal teammate, nudging you toward action just when hesitation tries to creep in. Momentum here isn't dramatic fireworks. It's quiet efficiency that compounds as the days stack up. What you do every day now is the spine of this phase. The daily rules are simple and relentless. Begin with a short planning ritual to anchor your intent, dive into a few focused work periods with minimal interruptions, and finish with a quick review that notes what worked and what didn't. Keep decision fatigue low by crowding out minor choices with pre-made defaults, templates, checklists, and predictable routines. A clean desk, a consistent morning posture, and a clear end-of-day reflection reinforce the loop. Small wins accumulate into a steady rhythm, and that rhythm carries you through tasks that once felt like uphill climbs. Week 1 of these weeks is about converting momentum into ironclad reliability. Energy feels steadier. You start starts with less resistance, and you finish tasks with a sense that you could repeat the process tomorrow with little friction. Distractions still exist, but your habit cues and environmental design blunt them. A writer finds sentences flowing more easily. A coder ships a module with fewer context switching trips. A designer tidies a portfolio piece and moves on. The pattern is observable. Tasks that used to stall now proceed with smoother momentum, and the sense of progress grows with each completed action. Week 2 asks you to push the envelope a bit more while staying protected by the routines that carried you here. You'll encounter the day 15 flatline, a moment when motivation dips and the urge to derail reappears. Not a catastrophe, just a signal to lean on pre-planned strategies. You respond by tightening micro-wins, tiny, undeniable progress moments you can count on, even when energy flags. You lean into flow more often, applying it to deeper work and more complex problems. This week teaches you how to sustain momentum under greater cognitive demand. You protect focus with richer boundaries, you honor rest as a tool, and you repeat the sequence that reliably returns you to productive states. Expect a mix of high-output days and quieter ones, both managed by the same core system. The psychological landscape shifts here, and you'll feel prepared for the mental battles ahead. Have your protective routines ready, a concise pre-work reset, a minimal choices environment, and a live log of wins to consult when doubt surfaces. If you slip, you don't abandon the plan. You adjust, return to microhabits, and use the day 15 experience as evidence that your system works under pressure. The aim is to carry the same calm certainty into the next phase as you carry momentum. Not a sprint, but a sustained, reliable climb, one deliberate action after another. Phase 7. Day 31. The re-entry. How to integrate back into society without losing your new superpowers. Day 31 marks the re-entry point where the gains from the previous phase face real-world testing. A day 15 flatline is expected during this transition. Motivation can dip as routines collide with social life. The goal is to keep your new habits intact while navigating old environments and triggers. This is a psychological battlefield, and you enter with a clear plan rather than blind endurance. In the daily rules framework, consistency is the moat and intention is the drawbridge. Wake at a consistent time and ensure a proper sequence of sleep, hydration, and sunlight. Short, sharp resets can prevent drift. Move every day, even if only for a short walk, and link the motion to a trigger like commuting or after a meal. Focus on one primary task at a time to preserve cognitive energy. Multitasking erodes habit fidelity. Design the environment to support success. Place your gym bag by the door, charge devices away from the workspace, and keep nourishing foods accessible. Set boundaries with devices and social media during peak energy windows. Use a timer and a simple limit to avoid creeping distraction. Journaling acts as a feedback loop. Note what went right, what nearly derailed you, and the exact social contexts you encountered. Build a quick check-in ritual at 3 points in the day: morning plan, midday readjustment, evening reflection. Create a social accountability contract with one ally who will call you to account if you miss 2 days in a row. The weekly timeline breaks the re-entry into tangible expectations. Week 1 is about re-entry rehearsals rather than marathon sessions. You reintroduce social environments gradually and practice your routines with lower stakes. Evenings are anchored by a short recovery protocol to avoid burnout. Expect more external stimuli. Colleagues, family, and friends will push you toward old habits, so you pre-negotiate boundaries ahead of time. The week centers on micro-commitments, such as a brief workout, a short mindfulness practice, or a single healthy meal. Use the Day 15 flatline as a touchstone. If momentum wanes, you have a rule to reduce the task to a 2-minute version and still win. Track results in a simple log and celebrate half wins to stay motivated. Week 1 should feel like a careful rehearsal rather than a full performance. Week 2 shifts toward broader integration. You increase exposure to real-world scenarios, maintain the boundaries you set, and consolidate with longer sessions that align with your core habits. Leverage social accountability by partnering with a buddy who will join you for certain activities, but also hold the line when derailment is possible. If you stumble, you reset quickly. Revise the plan, not the identity. The aim is to protect your sense of agency. Your superpowers stay intact when you keep the rituals as automatic as possible in the face of stress or fatigue. Provide concrete examples. In a meeting, you do a pre-meeting breath, followed by a post-meeting reflection. During meals, you choose protein and greens first. When exhausted, you opt for a brisk walk over scrolling. The psychological battle continues, but the structure helps you stay grounded and deliberate rather than reactive. The next 30 days will pass anyway. Do you want to be the same person or a new one? Time moves forward whether you act or not. Habits form from small, repeatable decisions, not one heroic sprint. The choice you face is simple in wording but hard in execution. Stay the same, or become someone different by the end of these 30 days. The framework you'll follow, the daily rules, gives you a fixed, repeatable process to tilt your trajectory toward a new identity. The daily rules. Wake at a consistent time and preserve a steady morning rhythm, even after a rough night. Small consistency beats big swings. Move for 15 to 20 minutes as soon as you can after waking. It should feel doable, not glamorous. Complete one focused work block of about 25 minutes on a single priority.
No multitasking, no excuses.
Hydrate first thing and drink 2 more glasses before lunch. Your cognitive engine runs better when you're well hydrated. End the day with 5 minutes of reflection and one concrete update about progress toward the new you. Capture one failure, one adjustment, and one win. If your goal is fitness, that first block might be a brisk walk or a bodyweight circuit. If you're rebuilding a study habit, it becomes a single, uninterrupted reading sprint. Environment matters. Lay out clothes the night before, put distractions out of reach, and place your cue for the daily rule where you'll see it first thing. The point is to make the right action the default, not the exception. The Day 15 flatline. A mid-month lull is real. Motivation sinks, novelty wears off, and the routine can feel hollow. You may notice you're clocking the steps but not feeling the earlier spark. This is the moment to lean on the identity you're forming. Reaffirm with a quick reset. Shorten the current block, tighten the cue, or reframe the task as one that a person who has already changed would do. If energy drops, revert to the simplest version of the rule you can still complete. If you slip, acknowledge it, adjust, and keep moving. The flatline isn't the end. It's the test that separates a temporary dip from a sustained drift. The weekly timeline. Week 1 is about planting the skeleton. You set up the daily rules, configure your environment for minimal friction, and begin tracking adherence. The focus is on consistency, not perfection. Expect friction, minor excuses, and a few early mornings where the alarm becomes a small fight you win. By the end of week 1, you've tasted what a routine that serves your future self feels like, and you've started building an evidence base. You can show up even when it's not easy. Week 2 intensifies the commitment. You keep the daily rules intact, and you add a deliberate push on one area where you want the strongest identity shift. You lean into Day 15 with a concrete plan. If you feel flat, you adjust the load while preserving the core habit. You push through small frictions, you deepen the reflection, and you test whether your actions are aligning with the new self you're narrating. Expect clearer signs of momentum, or sharper reminders of where your willpower was overdrawn. Either way, you'll be shaping a more reliable you, one deliberate choice at a time. This plan is a compact battlefield map. Time will pass, but your actions determine the person who looks back from the end of the month. The daily rules give you a reliable engine. The weekly timeline keeps the ship on course. Day 15 is the checkpoint where the weather changes. You're ready with a strategy, not surprised by it. Stay disciplined, stay honest, and let every small win register as proof you're becoming someone who handles discomfort with precision and purpose. You've got this. Here's the closing roadmap you can take straight into your life. Week 2 becomes the real test window. This is where day 15 flatline shows up, the moment when motivation and energy feel flat, and the brain starts recalibrating away from what's unfamiliar. Treat it as information, not fate. Fall back on the daily rules, keep the 2-minute starts, lean on accountability, and reaffirm why you began. If a habit stalls, shorten the next action, reconnect to your triggers, and protect your routine so it doesn't collapse. You aren't trying to push harder. You're refining the system so it runs on autopilot when willpower dips. By the end of week 2, your basic habit skeleton should be visibly living in your daily life, even if energy feels low. Direct summary of key points. Pick 3 core habits, build a friction-light start, design a supportive environment, log honestly, and write out the day 15 flatline with your structure intact. Expect week 1 to build the base, week 2 to test you but also prove that the system works even when motivation fades. If you're watching this and thinking, I've got a lot riding on this, you're not alone. I've coached people through this exact rhythm, and the moment you commit to the small daily rules, you start to see predictable progress even on hard days. You're gearing up for a mental battle, but you won't fight it blindfolded. You'll fight with a plan. Smooth call to action. If this resonated, drop a comment with the 3 habits you're locking in and 1 friction you're removing today. Like and subscribe so you don't miss the next steps. Share this with someone who needs a practical plan rather than hype. In the description, you'll find a printable 1-page map to accompany this video. Use it. Real future content mention. In the next videos, we'll dive into week 3 and week 4 specifics, habit stacking to pair wins, handling social environments and temptations, and strategies for resetting quickly if you derail. We'll also unpack common roadblocks, answer your questions in live sessions, and tailor the approach to different goals. You're choosing momentum over motivation now. Stay disciplined, stay curious, and keep showing up for the small yeses. See you in the next video, where we turn week 3 into a momentum sprint.